Fantastic. Well, good afternoon, Glasgow, and welcome back to another episode of Glasgow Food Chat. I'm Sarah Campbell, a reporter for the Glasgow Times. We're missing Paul Traynor of the Glasgowist today. I'm sure we'll miss him dearly, but he will be back next week, we hope. But making up for it, I am joined for some fantastic guests because today it's all about the East End of Glasgow and Denniston, then maybe further afield. That's one thing I'm really excited because personally, I've always been a Southsider. I've not really known the East End well. So I feel like I've got some real heavyweights to teach us a bit about it today. We've got Maria from Andina Coffee. We've got Daryl from Baked Pizza and Niall from East Coffee Company. So yeah, I think the aim for today is just to find out a bit more about the neighbourhood. As I say, it's one of these ones for food and drink especially, really exciting, always seems to crop up. And you do have the title of the coolest neighbourhood. I don't know if it still stands, but I feel like that's quite a claim to fame. So yeah, I guess I'd love to hear a bit more about what you guys do within the neighbourhood. So maybe if we start with Niall, do you want to tell us a wee bit about East Coffee?
Yeah, sure. I guess we've been there since 2018. We started roasting our own coffee in 2019. We've been kind of in the brunch kind of scene for the East End. Kind of, we've definitely maybe there before a few other people that have recently kind of added like messes now there, which is really good. They do fantastic brunches. Maria from Andina baked. You guys are doing a storm, but yeah, no, we specialise in basically coffee. Bagels at the moment and pies because everything's kind of changed about with COVID. But yeah, that's kind of a brief summary of what we've been doing.
Yeah, I did come across some pictures of your pies the other day, and they look pretty decent. They look like a macaroni one that was made me hungry.
Yeah, they go down a storm for sure. Only in Glasgow. I think outside of Glasgow, they're not much known. A macaroni pie.
It's a delicacy for sure. I think Glasgow knows how to appreciate a pie, if there's one thing to be said for us.
That's it, exactly.
Oh, and well, carbs on carbs then, I guess, from pie to pizza. Daryl, do you want to tell us a wee bit about baked?
Yeah, so we're a similar situation. We started in 2018, and we've been here since then, making Roman-style sheet pan pizza. And yeah, we've also been working all the way through the pandemic along with everybody else in Denniston, and yeah, it's been really good to see like everyone like pulling together. There's a big like community spirit in the area, and yeah, it's super nice, and like we're super happy to be a part of that.
Oh, amazing. And then Maria, you've got quite an individual take because you're all about Colombian coffee, I believe, which is really exciting. I'd love to hear a bit more about what that's like, how you feel in the neighborhood.
So I opened Andina 1.5 years ago. So it was right in the middle of the pandemic, which is, I mean, it was challenging, but it's been quite good. We specialize in Colombian coffee. I think different from majority of coffee shops here, we roast at origin. So we are like, my idea is just to give a bit more to Colombia and the Colombian farmers and just like have the whole chain over there. I work direct with a cooperative, my cousin, and it's just like a very close relationship with the whole chain. So yeah, we bring coffee direct, roasted over there. We were doing Colombian food, then restrictions and that were a bit tighter, so we stopped, but hoping to bring a little bit back again very soon.
Oh, amazing. And what kind of Colombian food? What's the kind of the natural dishes?
So at the time we were doing arepas, people were describing it like a hybrid between bread and a pancake. It's made with corn flour. They were gluten-free, and it's just like a wee circular thing that we used to fill with chicken or meat or plantain, like just Colombian recipes. It was actually very well liked by everyone, but the problem was that when the restrictions happened, we couldn't serve it in the place. It was just takeaway, and they are just not as good. Like, you need to eat it right away.
Oh, no, definitely. And well, speaking of lockdown, guys, I mean, you must have kind of experienced, because we talk about this quite often, Glasgow has quite distinct neighbourhoods for food and drink anyway, but I think lockdown really kind of sealed the deal with that, where people were shopping locally, or maybe getting a coffee was their only outing during the day, or they'd see yourselves and you kind of form a relationship with people. How did you guys find it during that tough time?
Yes,
I wonder.
we all probably just coped with it and did what we did at the what we seen fit at the time. But because I think for East, we took it basically when it all first started. When lockdown happened, early 2020, we just shut shop basically after one weekend where everything was up in the air. So we basically closed for a solid 2 months, I think, before we even thought about how we're going to run a business again in this environment. But we just stuck to takeaway. It was kind of like a fail safe, and we've done it ever since. It's been a lot of times where the rules have changed, and we could have like rejigged the shop to have tables sitting in again, but we just chose to stick with takeaway, and we're still are doing takeaway only, but we've got a lot of seats outside and stuff and a canopy, and people have it's allowed us to do better takeaway options for us. So it's kind of remodeled how we operate East for sure. But I mean, Daryl, I know you've like totally changed your shop. Now you've got seats again in it, which is pretty cool. But still got like restrictions on that. But that's how we did it at East.
Yeah, live from the scene is Daryl with the seats. You can see it in action, which is really cool. But I wonder, Daryl, could you even tell us a wee bit more about your pizzas? Because one thing I see quite often is people will be at the Necropolis or something, and they'll have picked up some of your pizza slices that look ideal for takeaway. So how's that been for you? Do you think it suits you quite well?
Yeah, we were quite lucky in some respects. Like before COVID, we were always quite busy in the store, so we'd never really been able to expand into takeaway. So in a way, this whole situation kind of like forced us to get into that side of things and start working with the delivery companies and stuff. I mean, it's not all great when it comes to working with these sort of like third parties like Uber and Deliveroo, but I think like it's taught us a lot, and like we're kind of just grateful that we've been able to like maintain the relationship with all of the customers. It's been quite sad serving everyone through the hatch for 2 years, but like we're just so happy that people are still coming down, and like even if it was through the hatch for a good while, like we've still been able to see everyone, and like it's nice to like keep that sense of community with like your customers and stuff. But it's definitely been a lot of trials and tribulations along the way with all the restrictions, and I don't think it's been easy for anyone. But looking back on it all, like super happy that we're all still here, and that Denniston's still doing really good as a destination for food and drink, you know.
Definitely. And then Maria, you were saying, obviously you kind of opened right in the thick of everything with lockdown. But I wonder as well, kind of starting somewhere in Glasgow, when you're not from here originally, how did you find that? Or how did you find Denniston? Do you think you got on well because the neighbourhood were quite welcoming, or how have you found it?
Yeah, I think I landed in the right place. People are really welcoming, and majority of them are like very interested in how it's in Colombia, and they want to come to the shop and talk about the weather and the people and the food that we have over there. In fact, like at the beginning we had a small bar area, and the idea was to have just a wee small place there, but then we started seeing that people wanted like just to come sometimes and stand there and talk to you about, oh, and how is this and how is that, and like ask you a lot of questions. So we were like, oh, let's just do a bigger bar area so we can probably like have more people around there, and we just talk with them. But people are definitely so welcoming, and they are very, very interested like in our culture. I don't know if it's maybe because of the lack of South American places in Glasgow, that they are really interested on knowing a bit more and knowing about the coffee and what we do. So it's nice to get like that vibe from people in Denniston.
Yeah, definitely. I'd imagine it's a bit more grey than Colombia, though, to be honest. As lovely as Denniston is, I feel like the weather maybe doesn't compare.
You feel even harder in January. I don't know what it is, but you get a bit more like, oh, I wish I was home.
Oh, no, I feel that for sure. So, what do you think it is? Does anyone know, like yourselves personally, do you spend a lot of time in Denniston, or are there any food places that you think kind of make Denniston great? Or where would you go for a drink? Or what's the kind of vibe that you would describe for Denniston? I don't know if maybe Niall or Daryl wants to head with that, if you guys are kind of the heavyweights for the scene.
Well, me personally, I live in Tradeston now, but prior to this, I did live in Denniston for about 2 years. And the thing that strikes me that's really nice about it is a lot of the stuff is really concentrated around Duke Street, and you've got the necropolis as well. So it's a great space to come and kind of meander through. You're either going to end up in the necropolis or even at the park on the other side, Alexandra Park. So it's a really nice area. There's lots of bars in between as well. So it's a good place to come and spend like the evening or the afternoon and visit a few places if you can.
Oh, no, definitely. And just a wee question for you there from one of our viewers, Sarah, thanks for asking. She's asking, Daryl, is your shop on Duke Street? I think I've passed it, never tried their pizza. You should try their pizza, it's great.
She's missing out,
yeah.
so you should go try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are on Duke Street, right next to the Tenants Brewery. So we're the first thing that you see when you come out of the brewery tour. So we're right there.
No, that seems like it's a good connection. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I feel like if you're coming out of brewery tour, a good slice of pizza is what you need.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, definitely. And what about yourself, Niall? What would you, if you were recommending somebody spends a day in Denniston, what do you think is the best way to spend it?
Well, yeah, I mean, pick a sunny day for starts. And then if it's on the weekend, you should probably head in from town, go down Gallowgate through the Barras. The Barras is a pretty good introduction into what the East End is about, which is very Glasgow. There's a very Glasgow kind of old school scene around the Barras, and you know, some of it's a bit suspect, but it's charming all the same. And then if you carry on up, like Duke Street is just like basically the next street up. So you get into Denniston pretty quick, and Denniston's like pretty old school. There's not a huge amount of streets left in Glasgow where there's shops running down both sides. It's like as long as Duke Street. You get pockets in the south side, and you also got pockets in the west end, like Bars Road as well. But the east end's version of that is very much Duke Street. So if you're coming down, I mean, well, if you're in the Barras as well, you can go to places like Gate. The Gate is really good for evening drinks. Before, if you're going over to see a show at the Barrowlands itself, which is a pretty renowned venue, and then. Yeah, in Denniston, there's a lot of what I would call old man bars, which are pretty charming. So definitely
Love an old man bar.
Exactly. It's kind of a staple in Glasgow too. And yeah, I mean, everyone's got their local favourite old man bar for sure. But yeah, the food seems great. It's all pretty small venues doing pretty incredible stuff. So it's just having a wander about and having a look. And Necropolis, which is what Daryl mentioned, is definitely a favourite. You go up to the top of that and you can kind of see all over the East End and the city centre. And the cathedral is pretty amazing as well. So yeah, it's just good to see all the chimney pots, all the houses, the old tenement flats, the drives. You know, it's pretty charming. So yeah, it's definitely worth a wee wander. You'll find out.
No, definitely. And Celentanos I've been to as well recently. Cathedral House, they opened this year, which, yeah, a real good one. I don't know if you guys have been, but I really enjoyed that. It's great. Oh, no,
sure.
Definitely. And I wonder, because I do speak to obviously quite a few people that have businesses in Denniston, and one that kind of stuck with me, although I think her shop is maybe more Hag Hill End, was Jackie from Full Circle Bakes. She said something really interesting about Denniston kind of being almost like you said, Niall, quite old school, and they don't really do so much like, you know, fancy. It's like good, hearty kind of Glasgow. Do you think that's quite distinct to you guys? Do you think it's kind of a throwback to older days in Glasgow when people kind of were after heartier kind of fare or an old man's pub? Or how do you feel about it?
I would probably put it down to more just a pretty old school Scottish mentality, and Glaswegian especially is willing to say anything and with a bit of cheek and get away with it. And that's always the game, is having a laugh with your neighbours and all that. But it's all genuinely kind-hearted, and it's like you spend enough time in Duke Street and the East End, and you just know your neighbours. Whether you have a choice in it or not, they'll tell you, or they'll ask you exactly what's going on, and like try and get a bit out of you. And I think that's just an old mentality of Glasgow, because the East End's kind of, yeah, it's definitely, it's not as it's not as diverse as other parts of Glasgow, which is just what it is. It's like just
Proper
a bit different when it's old,
Yeah.
old Glasgow, because like in the West End, you've got all the Indian restaurants and stuff, and I feel like a lot of Indians have grown up who were from originally in India, grew up there in the 60s and stuff, so it's kind of a different diversity there, but there's definitely more Italians maybe in the East End, old school Italians, and that's like places like Coy's is kind of an example of that. But that's definitely quite a while ago since we've like it's Celtic Park, it's so Irish, it's Scottish Irish, it's and traditionally the East End of any city in the UK is kind of more working class, just from back from how it was set up back in the Victorian days. But yeah, I think it's just quite honest, I think we find.
Oh no, definitely. Or gallus, I heard someone say the other day. A good word, a good Glasgow word. But then I wonder, that's quite exciting, Maria, if Niall is saying, there maybe it wasn't traditionally as much diversity, although that's obviously changing now. You can kind of see even like Duke Street itself is diversifying so much, but you're kind of at the forefront of that, I guess, with Andina. Or how have you found it? Has it been quite a culture shock, or what do you like to do in Denniston? How's your idea of it?
Well, I really feel like it's proper Glasgow. At the beginning, it was a bit challenging for me because of the accent that I was getting. And I remember I had to ask so many times, even when people were asking me just for a latte, I was like, what? I just didn't get it. And they were just pointing, and I was like, all right, a latte. But I don't know, I just think that there is a bit of everything. And I think that people are really open to new things. And as I said before, they are just very welcoming. I just find that there is everything to do over there, and I don't know, because if I'm always with my two dogs, and I go around walks in Denniston with them. And something that I really like is that majority of places are pet friendly, so I can just jump anywhere with my two huskies in the East End. And I think I'm always around in the area. We are always like going to St. Luke's all the time with the dogs. I think we go like 3-4 times a week, because it's just a nice vibe, a nice atmosphere around it. And as Neil was saying, like just walking about and seeing the nice tenements, and that is just quite, charming.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Old school and charming. That's very nice. And also, I kind of noticed that there is quite a common theme within Denniston as well, although some of the people that you partner with, I think, are maybe outside of the East End. But Glasgow in general seems to be really good at supporting each other hospitality businesses. I guess that's maybe because it's more small scale, there's less chains, it's independent. But is it important to you all in your work to kind of be keeping up with these collaborations? Because I see like Niall, you work with or you do a lot of zero waste stuff, and then Maria, you had Three Sisters Bakes. How do you find that? Or do you think Glasgow's a great city for people supporting each other in that way?
I think everyone gets behind it pretty quick. I mean, Darryl, you've worked across Glasgow, and I feel like you definitely brought a lot of people onto Duke Street when you opened. Because you've got so many pals everywhere. For me, like Hillfoot Street was a real like micro like community, because it's just you've got 12 shops on either side, maybe not even as much, and zero waste was like great to us, because when the pandemic happened, we weren't comfortable with opening / weren't allowed at certain points, but if some of the supermarkets were still able to function, and zero waste is a grocery shop, so they were doing pickup coffee beans. So we would drop off orders at zero waste, and they would click and collect from our website and pick it up at zero waste. And that was a really nice thing. They completely did it out of their own hearts, and didn't ask for anything in exchange. So things like that were great. And Gail from the floristers around the corner, she's always just dropping off flowers left, right, and centre. Just we cut offs from big orders and stuff, and we just swap it for some espressos or whatever. So there's always like that. And the tailor shop across the road in Hillfoot Street as well is, always there's always a bit of bartering going on, you could say.
I love that though, and I love that attitude.
Yeah, it's great.
Neighborhood. Oh man, and Daryl, that's an interesting claim. Yeah, do you feel like you're a veteran of the street? Because that kind of sounds like you have the run of the place the way Niall's talking about it there.
Well, a little bit, but I think I've lived here my whole life, so I think Glasgow is one of these. It's one of these slightly smaller cities where, when you really get down to it, it turns out everybody knows everybody. So I think like people are really good at getting behind each other here, and like it's always nice to like kind of see the reception for something you're doing, or if it's something you're working for, that like there's a great sense of like support in Glasgow. I guess because it is quite a small city. Everyone sort of knows each other, so things get around quickly here, I guess.
Definitely. And Maria, I guess you find that as, again, like one of the newer businesses that we've been chatting to. And as I say, it looks really exciting, your partnerships for baking and stuff, when you're not really able to do your fabulous Colombian cooking yourself as of yet. Have you enjoyed kind of getting to know people on the scene, or how have you found it?
Oh, so much. It's nice because I'm starting like a new venture in my life, but it's a bit more difficult because I'm doing it in another country. And at the beginning, I was a bit scared of how that was going to work. But people here are just very helpful and open. Sometimes if like we can't do partnerships, they are more than happy to just give you advice on how to do things. And that's just something that actually gets like into me, because you wouldn't expect people being so nice about, what, just do this in your business or try this other thing and it'll work. So it's very nice.
Yeah, I think for a city that has so many fantastic food places, and it should be so competitive, or like you would think it would be that way, I think maybe that's part of Glasgow's success, is there's not really any kind of that. Like people will gladly big up another business as much as their own, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
I think we all, maybe we speak for myself, but I think generally the attitude I get is like everyone's keen for everyone to do well because it brings up the whole of Glasgow, and like people that live here really want to bring Glasgow up because they know how much it's worth to them. And as like community, the music scene, like the art scenes and all sorts of stuff's going on in the background, and food's just one small element of it, but it really kind of is a place for everyone from all backgrounds to kind of join in together and share their experiences or like things about Glasgow and like support the community of things happening, because more the better.
No, definitely, because that's quite an interesting point as well. Even going away from food and drink, just Glasgow in general, Denniston seems to kind of breed, again, I guess maybe one of these ones where it was maybe cheaper prices for students or whatever, but there seems to always be a new band from Denniston or kind of new artists and stuff in that side of the city. It's quite an exciting wee hub for Glasgow, I think, the East End. I don't know about you guys if you noticed that.
They've got everything there. Like you can find from the pound shop to Bill's on 11, that it's just that fancy place. Like you can find absolutely everything. I think that's quite amazing to find in such a small area of the city.
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's been super exciting talking about the East End. But what we like to do on Glasgow Food Chat is we have our signature quickfire questions, which again aren't as scary as they sound. And honestly, your answers can be as stupid as you like, because sometimes they are. Someone asked my favorite food, and I told them it was bread, which is great for a food and drink writer, just being like straight up. Didn't even specify that it was like nice bread. It could have been Hovis. They'd never know. But anyway, I wonder, even just to start off, and if anybody wants to jump in, because I'd like to hear from all of these, do you guys have an idea of food hell? Is there one ingredient? For a lot of people, it's like coriander, or say even if someone didn't serve you food on a plate, because I know that was a thing for a while, you don't see so much of it. What would put you off a dish? What would you never order?
Peppers.
Marmite.
hate peppers.
What was that? Peppers like
Yeah, I
like
can't.
bell peppers?
Yeah, can't.
Peppers.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
No way.
and
Is
it's
it a
quite
texture
weird
thing? Is
because
it?
everything in Glasgow has peppers, so I'm always like, pepper.
That was probably half the reason for that.
Yeah, Daryl's sweating. He's like looking at his menu.
Oh god.
But what about
Okay, well, that's quite
chilies?
niche.
Like, you're okay with chilies? It's just peppers, like red peppers, any peppers?
Just red pepper, green pepper, yellow pepper. I love chili.
Cool.
I like how
I
you
mean,
came
for
out
me,
as
I-
well, straight
I-
with that.
I generally eat anything, but I think Marmite's what I don't like.
You don't like Marmite? Let's see. There was a recipe I saw recently, and it was like Marmite spaghetti, where it was literally just a huge knob of butter and Marmite on spaghetti. And personally, I think that sounds amazing, but clearly not. An interesting one. What about you, Daryl? What's your no-go?
Mine's very personal. It's not that everyone doesn't have to like this, but I don't like seitan.
Wow.
Oh no, I don't like it. It scares me. I don't understand it.
Oh, well, that's interesting because you guys have obviously quite a lot of veggie and vegan options for your pizza as well. Is it fake meat in general, or are you just not a seitan person?
Yeah, we do loads. I actually eat loads of vegan food in my normal everyday diet. But it's the fake meat that scares me. I don't understand it.
I can kind of get on board with that. Seitan's just a giant ball of gluten.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I like vegetables. I don't need to
Yeah,
eat it.
totally. I mean, you could argue bread's the same, but it's a bit different.
Yes.
Yeah. But at least bread, it starts off as flour and it's kind of recognizable, whereas seitan, the process for it is terrifying. It turns into like...
It's an apple.
To be fair, I do eat it. Oh, very interesting. And I wonder on a more positive note, and this is quite interesting, especially now as we were talking about pies and that being an absolute comfort food in Glasgow. I wonder, do you guys have something, maybe even Glasgow specific, a comfort food like we talk quite often about people stopping off at Blue Lagoon after a night out on Sauchiehall Street? Or is there like a nostalgic dish, a comfort food dish from Glasgow that you can think of that you guys like?
Oh, it's got to be curry. Glasgow's just curry, particularly like decent, there's a few places in the West End you can go, Mother India, or you can go to Sheesh Mahal or Ashoka or whatever, but like a decent, like, I don't know, lamb rogan jock or something, or like it's just a packet with chilies as well, and then it's Peshwari naan bread. I think everyone in Glasgow loves Peshwari naan bread. But that's kind of my view on that.
I have two places that I always go to for my comfort food, and they're both Kurdish places. One's called Shawarma King, and the other one's called Tarbush. And that's my favorite after work spot. And those guys do the best. They do the best salads and the best foods. It's so good.
Oh, there's nothing better than finding a place you can go to after a shift, I think, after a long one, and pick something up. And just kind of like the shared acknowledgement of what you've just been through, where you're like, hey, what's your order? What do you get from these places, Daryl?
Oh, I always get the lamb shawarma. And if I go to Tarbush, I always get the tabbouleh because it's really, really good.
Very good. And what about you, Maria? As long as it's not got peppers, are we fine? Or do you have something specific that you like to have?
Yeah, St. Luke's barbecue ribs, always love them. So good. I don't know if that's
Denison barbecue. Have you tried the barbecue ribs at Denison Barbecue?
I've not tried them.
You gotta go.
Because I love barbecue ribs. The ones at St. Luke's are just amazing, huge, amazing.
I'll go try that.
Yeah, we need to go see Denison Barbecue because they're doing the litter pick in Denison this weekend. I think this weekend or next weekend. Yeah, nice. So we need to go see them.
Big time.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think we can end on that note, guys. That's quite happy. I tell you what, you should have a Denison super team. We should go pick some litter up and get a pizza, get some ribs, go for a pint. Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me and for teaching me a wee bit about Denison. As I say, that's been super interesting. I hope it's been good for the readers, watchers at home. And yeah, we will leave it for now, but I hope everyone's enjoyed watching. Thank you to Emma, our producer. Thank you to our lovely guests. and we will see you again in 2 weeks' time. But bye for now, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you so much. See you all
Cheers.
soon. Bye.
Bye bye.